You're listening to Welcome to ELOMA, a podcast for highly ambitious dreamers who get shit done. I'm your host, KILEY Peters. This is a space where we talk about public relations and public perception. So spending the last 15 years of my career in the marketing and branding world, I thought I understood what PR was. I was very wrong. I have humbly come to realize that PR is so much more than I could ever even try to verbalize. I don't even know how I could have verbalized it before, but I've realized that whatever I thought I knew, I was very wrong. And I'm very excited about today's guest, Tamara Edwards. I've recently partnered with her. She's the founder of Tamara Edwards & Co. And I've partnered with them to help me with my personal branding and PR for all of my professional entities. And I'm really excited to dive into this conversation because I think PR is something, again, as I'm learning more and more about it, I think that it can be such a powerful tool, especially for small business in general, but especially for small business. So Tamara she's a badass. She's built her career working on the Hill in DC. She's been building magazines, speaking at TEDx, crushing lists of people to watch. Without further ado, welcome to ELOMA, Tamara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so pumped that you're here. And I know you and I could just spend hours in chatting about pretty much anything, but I'm going to try to stay on topic today. So let's go ahead and dive in. When we talk about public relations for small businesses, tell me a little bit about what small business owners need to know when it comes to PR and how public perception impacts their business.
Yeah, PR is, like you said in your intro, is a bit convoluted. You can go to many different people, get many different definitions, and then not even going into the tactics. But I define it consistent with PR USA's definition, which is getting in front of your audience, getting in front of the public. And what that means when we get into branding terms is your audience, right? What do they care about? Those are a lot of the questions we ask on the front end. But very simply put, PR is your connection to your audience in some degree, right? Obviously there's crossover with brand and marketing and things like that. In my own words, and I just add a little layer to that, is my definition of PR personally is PR is brand continuity. It's one thing to have a logo. It's one thing to have a website, but how are you staying relevant? And there's actual real-time things associated with PR. So it's a constant activity. It never ends. It's so much fun. It's my favorite thing to talk about. And I think for me, at least, it puts a lot of other things into place in business. And so my approach is PR and communications infrastructure. But PR is just, it's your story. And it's so fun in the beginning when we first engage with new clients or even prospective clients, is what's your story? I just love hearing people's stories and how they want to tell them. And that's our job, to help bring that to new audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. When you say, what's your story? I think of Bye Bye Birdie. What's your story, Morning Glory? Call back to old movies. But I think that's so important because that's something that we hear all of the time, is the importance of telling a story. We know that that's important in selling, in marketing, and presenting our brand. PR, of course, makes sense for that. And I think that's something that as owners, it's embarrassing to admit this, but I think we're pretty bad at doing that ourselves. We can do that better for our clients if you are working in that type of field, but I think we do a bad job of doing it for ourselves. So if and now that I'm a client of yours and we just started doing this process, what would be pieces of advice you would give to a small business owner who's trying to do a better job at DIYing their own storytelling? What are maybe a couple nuggets you could kind of give them to chew on? Couple bones.
Yeah. I always say that I'm a very tactical person, but I'll give sort of the strategy overview to help inspire, but I'll actually offer some tactics too, get started with this, and this will actually,
awesome.
I think, help change your business. But to me, PR is especially in 2022, is not just send a press release, get in the news, and then that's it, right? You need to amplify this story and this message and that earned media. One thing we focus on is also owned media, not necessarily trying to build your website, but making sure that all of the buttons work and that the messaging is very consistent with what we're saying. So when we're building a PR kit, so to speak, right, I need things like a boilerplate, right? RAYNE 9 is a great example where you as a brand strategist, as a writer, as a visionary, you had these things already in place. Sometimes with our clients, we need to start there. But PR is really about just building out your infrastructure of what needs to be, how these things are going to flow. And we ask our clients, if you're not sure where to start, if you want to DIY, we say to our clients, what are 5 things, 6, 4, that you really want people to know about your brand? Culture, growth, hiring, your mission, your vision, where you want to be in 5 years. And how are we going to tell that story in real life? So that's sort of how PR is made, so to speak. But in another way of thinking about it, that's a little bit more, like you said, DIY, is PR can also be a company newsletter, right? I always say, if you're going to be in front of one select audience, what would you say to that group, right? If it's your clients, if it's your team, if it's your colleagues, if it's your industry, what do they need to know? If we're talking industry, it's going to be something around differentiation, right? It's going to be something around being cutting edge or how you're participating or adding value to that conversation. If we're talking community, what are you doing from a corporate social responsibility standpoint? If we're talking about companies, say you need to recruit, what are you doing from a culture standpoint or benefits that is going to attract people? Now, let's put this into maybe an easier headspace. Is if you were to give a speech or lead a workshop or put everyone in the same room and you had 1 minute to speak, maybe 30 seconds, if I really want to challenge you, what would you say to that audience? And that can be distilled into a newsletter. And that's truly what PR is all about. It's just and I don't say this often, but it really is just a newsletter. Now, from a PR standpoint, we of course have tactics and, nice softwares and contacts and relationships and enough experience to really get it into the news and to find the right reporters and build media relations. But you want to have that done. You can DIY that, especially in a local media environment. But you can do that yourself if you have the right training and tools. And YouTube's a great place. There's plenty of smart PR people out there. But really, it's what is the story you want to tell and how are you going to tell it? If you're going to disseminate that information, again, newsletter could be great. Let it flow into social media. From a PR standpoint, that can be a great starting point as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you touched on earlier how there's some overlap between marketing and PR and all these things, right? So I think it's I love that you cast it in the lens of storytelling, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do, right? Is tell our story in a meaningful and impactful way. So it's like, okay, guys, if you're going to DIY this, get really clear on your story and why anybody should care about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody gets into the DIY, I'm going to DIY my PR. Have fun with that. Now, say you get into it and you're semi-successful and then you're like, yeah, this shit's really hard. I should hire someone.
Yeah.
What are some things that they should be looking for? Because I will say this as, I experienced this personally. It's like, I felt so silly. I've spent my career in marketing and branding. And I'm like, I know how to hire a PR agency. And I made a lot of huge, very expensive mistakes because I didn't know what I didn't know. So whatever you're about to say, I wish that I had heard that first. So if you were to say to a small business owner, okay, they're looking to hire a PR agency, these are some things you should look for. What would they be?
Yeah. And that's a great question because I'm very close with, I would say, 5 or 6 different PR firms all around the country. And I call on them for help. They call on me for help. We know each other's strengths. And like, for example, a friend of mine who has a PR firm out in San Diego, queen of pitching. She could pitch a story like no other. And she just has taught me so much, right? So, but to really answer your question is every PR firm, what I found, is so different in their approach. My approach to PR is dedicated to PR and communications. We will get the PR function actually going for you. I'm also want to be conscientious and participate in your actual business activities. What is happening? How are we aligning the story? What is the most important thing? So these two things go hand in hand. And then again, when we earn the media, it's not the first time that your audience is hearing about this story we've been trying to tell. So we actually use the press release as an asset, right? But when you're shopping for a PR firm, they can be very expensive. A lot of them have, high retainers. What is the ROI? And there's no guarantee with PR. There's no guarantee that we're going to get our clients into press. But I say we have a very high batting average. We will be successful. We will find ways to be successful and be agile, but make sure you're clear on tactics and ROI, and ask a lot of questions on the front end, because it really goes back to the personalities. In my view, great PR is both of us, KILEY and I, doing the work. I work very closely with CEOs, executives of many different companies, some with 5,000 employees, some with 5. And it's important to me to be directly talking to the leader of that organization or the visionary of that organization who has a vision and can ebb and flow. And, so it goes back to personalities. And then really, how does your PR firm measure success, and how do you measure success? And those are some of the first conversations we have with our clients. Like, what does your dream scenario look like? And then we will help apply what we know to help you get there. Not every PR firm is going to be that way. We've seen PR agencies, especially, operate in a very cookie cutter, this step way. Yeah. And they're still very successful for their clients. Also ask about industry, ask about region, ask about, what their relationship with the media is like and what they view as the pulse of their specific market. I do different markets and different industries, but I approach PR specifically. We create the stories around our clients and the media follows, even though I might have relationships in similar industries and different spaces. Media relations actually for me is the easy part, because my clients are the best story. So we make them cutting edge. We position them quite a bit on the front end. A lot of PR firms, and this isn't a bad thing, maybe you were producers or, come from networks and they have very specific relationships. A friend and mentor of mine has complained to me about his PR firm because he is featured on national news, national networks as a commentator in finance, and really doesn't end up talking about the things that he wants to be talking about. Whereas my clients, we actually craft the narrative and the story. So we we do quite a bit of passive PR and proactive PR, but we really craft the story around them. So the coverage we get is in alignment with what we're promoting, which makes marketing people, I'm told, very happy.
Yes, that's always a great one-to-one when it comes from get really, and I want to go back though to your push on storytelling, and just a note to anybody listening, get really, really clear on the story that you're telling. And I say this as somebody who has gone through this process so many times myself, and I'm still tweaking it, but get really clear on the story you're telling and why anyone should care, because you're going to make that path so much easier for your PR, for your marketing, for all the things, right? So it's, yeah absolutely. You had said a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. You had mentioned defining success. So get really clear on defining success. And I think it's really important to call that out because, well, one, I'm obsessed with this concept of defining success, but two, I think it's also easy to forget that sometimes how we define success, is not the default. I know I fall victim to that oftentimes where I'm like, well, of course, this is what success is. Why would you even need to ask? Because people aren't mind readers, because everyone defines it differently. So I love that that's such a top goal. And the second one that you had called out, I lost. I should have taken notes. I was like, oh, that's a good one. I have to come back to it, but I can't remember what it was. So it was so good. You just covered the whole thing. in and of
Let me
its own.
buy you some time, actually, because I want to speak to that, right? A lot of clients come to us. So we work with private equity firms, venture capital firms, medium-sized corporate companies, small businesses, and personal brands. Like, that is so not niche in this 2020 era of being niche. What I'm niche on is my approach to PR and strategic communications. That said, every client wants to be in Forbes and Fast Company and they have their name in lights, right? The fun part is if you really want that overnight, you can pay $25,000 and get that. And I totally encourage that. You're not going to work with us. I don't do paid media. The reason I bring this up is to say, and almost over answering your first question, your initial question, which is, how do we define success? I think about things in gamification mode, right? Like, that's level 100. Forbes is level 100. Now, what does your business need to be saying and doing? Forbes, they want to sell copies of their magazine, and they want clicks, right? So we need to be the best story that's going to get people really excited. So how do we position your brand for that? How do we position your personal brand or your business for that? What needs to be done on the front end? And it's not complicated or me saying, hey, good luck, Chuck. It's just saying, let's start from the goal and work backwards. But that's where the tactics come in. And that's something that for me, I've been, it's pretty intuitive for me. And we'll talk about my professional background, I think, eventually in the interview. But at the same time, the very simple way of explaining this is I was working with a woman in Chicago who is passionate about news of the day. And she goes, you've been on MSNBC, Tamara. I know you have the contacts at MSNBC. Put me on MSNBC. And that's where, as a publicist, I had to make a call and say, okay, my client wants me to put her on national news. I do have contacts there. I've been in every newsroom in Chicago and DC and some in New York, and many others around the country, but the major news markets. And I just knew that she needed more media training. I mean, really, that's what it was.
Sure.
She needed to compose herself because she's very passionate and she's brilliant. She needed more media training. She needed to get in local markets and be in different environments. So when she is on that MSNBC stage, the world is watching. She's running with the Titans. When you watch some of these broadcasters, or especially a debate stage, these are highly trained professionals who do this and have studied this. You can't just go from passionate, well thought out, I've got my brand deck, to the main stage and a leading thought leader in the industry. You need to work towards those things in many ways. And so what I'm really good at is helping people have that conversation and work towards those goals and streamlining. And as my friends would say, or some of my clients, even hacking the system. Like, how can we get there? If that's the goal and the vision and the dream, right? Whether it's Forbes or entrepreneur or whatever the business needs are, we take that obviously into consideration quite a bit, right? You got to sell books. I get it. You got to sell books. This is what I think we need to do, but it's not just overnight. We're all on Oprah.
Wouldn't that be lovely? Like, tomorrow, I'll just chat it up with Oprah. That would be amazing. No, I love that, and that's such a good call, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs tend to be type A and tend to be a little bit impatient. Guilty myself. And you're absolutely right. Like, that makes so much sense. You want to make sure that by the time you get to main stage or Forbes or whatever that main stage spotlight looks like, you're prepared to really nail it, because we get, like, you argue, you get one first impression, you get one real big shot. You don't want to blow it. I want to thank you for buying me time, because I remembered what my second thing was. My second thing was, when you were talking about what to look for when hiring a PR agency, was personality and making sure they drive. I will say to all the listeners out there, the first time I met Tamara, we were connected by a mutual friend, and I was like, this is amazing. She seems awesome and badass. Let's just chat. And then I realized, I think I need PR. And our first conversation was intended to just be like hi, nice, we should meet each other. And I made it into a business conversation. But I so appreciated, like, you showed up like on natural. There's like no makeup. There's nothing fancy happening. And I was like, this is amazing. I could go get drinks with this lady all day long and we could just hang out. And I'm like, I'll go anywhere and hang out with her in any room, in any city, whatever. And then I saw our mutual friend that weekend. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to hire her because I just want to hang out with her. Like, this will be so fun. So anyway, I absolutely agree with what you were saying. And then also a nod to, you were talking about your professional history. Let's touch on that for a hot second. One of the things that drew me to you was your background working in DC. I know I'm probably like most of the country that watches like House of Cards and Scandal and all these stupid DC shows that we're all obsessed with. And it's like, oh my gosh, she must be so badass. She was in DC and did this shit. Oh my God. So tell me a little bit about what it was like working in DC and how you've taken some of those skills and transferred them into your business now.
Yeah. Okay. So House of Cards. Yes. Veep.
Oh yes. Veep. God.
I'm Gary. I'm totally Gary. I'm like there, but as I've matured professionally, I think I'm much more like, I'm a little bit more, not reserved, because I still love being in the weeds of like my clients and this, and I'm just so involved. But yeah, it's very Veep. It's very Veep.
I should have said Veep. Veep is like, I'm obsessed. I mean, with a comedy background, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, amazing. Yeah. But yeah, the whole show is so freaking funny.
Yeah. Yeah. My first job was, I think I'm so grateful for that first opportunity. I was fresh out of college. I got a job at a top lobbying firm called Polaris, and we did fundraisers for Republicans and Democrats on the House and the Senate side. Our offices was actually a row home, and we hosted events, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. It was a lobbying organization. And I just got so much experience in 18 months, and I met most of the decision makers in the House and the Senate leadership and committees. And it was such a great, almost like boot camp. I always had this joke that I was going to make this t-shirt that says I survived, because it was such a difficult job.
I can't even imagine. That shit seems ruthless.
Yeah. Yeah. It was quite a bit, but that set the tone for where I'd like to think my career really, really took off. And I got a job as a scheduler, is what it's called, for a U.S. congressman from my home state, from Illinois, and was, wore tights and heels every day, and was just so dedicated to 24/7 where the congressman was, what he was doing from a logistics standpoint, and wanted to just make his day great and make his life easier, and processing quite a bit of information. So I think that really helped set the tone for my ability to just handle a very high volume of things and do so quite easily. I'd like to think I'm very organized. But I said to my chief of staff, who I'm still very close with, and I said, I want to do PR and communications. And he said, great. And the good news is I worked on the House side, and there's a limited number of staff that you can have in any office. Whereas the Senate side, it's based on population, which gives obviously a much bigger budget. So places like California have like 80 staff, and you have folks in DC and in the districts themselves. And, if you're in a rural district, you have several satellite offices. So the constituents, they try to be at least an hour away from minimum from their constituents. So all of that to say is I had this, very, very incredible experience working for the congressman on campaigns for 5 years, writing speeches, crisis communication, social media, proactive, but we were strategic from the get-go. And that was because of the congressman's communications director. Her name's Maura Gillespie. She's actually like photographs right there. Huge influence over me. And the congressman I work for is very, very high profile to this day. He's in the news quite regularly. If you send me a message, I'll be happy to share who that was. But all of that to say is I was really, really built as a publicist by these incredible visionary thinkers. And what really made me leave was nothing other than I was living in DC. I'd like to think I was thriving in DC, but I'm from Chicago and my family's from here. I have 6 nieces and nephews and I just adore them. And the congressman's office is near Chicago. And so I thought, and I hadn't had private sector experience. So very quickly I got a job, the privilege of working at a personal branding agency for 6 months, and decided to take a break from that. And I just kind of regrouped and said, okay, what am I doing with my career? And my first client is a private equity individual, and he is a career CEO. And what he does is he makes businesses more profitable. And I am right there alongside him in all of his ventures, making them more visible. So we worked on satellites. We worked on huge names in venture capital. We've done crisis communications and his philanthropy and all kinds of amazing things. So to sort of bottle this up, it was, within the first 7 years of my career, I got agency, business, government, and startup in that first job, a very small office, very, very quickly, which really set the tone for my business is going to be turning 5 years old in April of 2023. I've been able to apply.
Congratulations.
Things. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. And been able to apply all of those things very quickly. So I feel very lucky. But I do know that a lot of sweat and tears have gone into the becoming of, I guess, where I'm at now. But yeah, I can navigate bureaucracy. I can understand agency and understand processes and scalability. But I've also gotten, I would say, my MBA and my PhD in business from my very first client, who's still my client to this day in business. And it's been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, at one point in time in my past life, not to make this into a long story, but at one point in time, I got into acting because I wanted to book a commercial to pay for the MBA program that I wanted to go to. Anyone listening can ask me more about that. It was a whole long thing. But long story short is during that time where I took acting classes to book a commercial to pay for my MBA, I had an acting instructor say to me in a one-on-one, he was like, you will find that you are uniquely positioned to do a certain thing at a certain point in time that like nobody else will be able to do. I was like, that's so encouraging. Thank you for that. Don't know what that means, but okay, thanks. And I have gone back to this conversation so many times over my life because he was right. And I think I bring that up now because everything that you just said, like you have such an interesting background that's not like the quote unquote stereotypical PR agency owner background, right? But I think that's so cool because it gives you all these like unique ingredients to uniquely do something that nobody else is well positioned to do. And I say that for anybody listening as well. Like I've talked to so many people who are like, but I don't have a traditional background and so-and-so is not going to take me seriously, blah, blah. No, bro, that's your secret sauce, man. You got to lean into that and figure out why is this so unique for you and how are you going to leverage it and make it into whatever comes next. So just to tie all that back up, I love all of your pieces.
Thank you.
So all that said, lots of things being shared here. If for any listener right now who's like, wow, that was a whole lot of word vomit, KILEY and Tamara, what is like the one over there? There's a lot going on. What is the one thing that you want owners to take away from this episode?
Yeah, I think having a roadmap is the most important thing. I find that people really get lost, especially as fast as life is moving. We're all very busy these days, but there's so many trends. There's so many things that are tempting, right? I have a client that asked me if they should be on TikTok and they're a 3-person startup. And I just don't, it's probably not the best use of your time, right? Yeah. So having a roadmap is great. And the thing that we spend the most amount of our time on the front end is saying, what is PR? What does success look like from a PR standpoint? What does it look like from a brand standpoint? what do you want your audience to do with your information? And having those questions in front of you actually unveils very classic brand strategy type formulas of the roadmap that can help get you there. What we do for our clients is we work on schedules. What is the schedule of activities? So it doesn't all have to be done right now. It doesn't all have to be done tomorrow. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to help get you to where you want to go. Start with clean up your website, right? Clean up your messaging. Start with, very simple once a week social media post. You don't necessarily have to be a social media influencer to be a successful marketer to get yourself out there. So we really want to take away that stress and that nervousness. And we want our clients, most of our clients are, they're not social media influencers. They're not selling a consumer product. We do have consumer product companies that we do PR for. They manage their own social. I have no questions for them and they have no questions for me. But for small business owners, people just starting out or want to go out on their own. That's the biggest thing, is just start with a roadmap, start with a plan. And that plan is really a series of answers to the questions of what do you want? What does it look like? And what do you think needs to happen for you to get there? And we find that that's the most helpful. So most of our clients, we know where we're going to be, 6 months, 8 months, 4 months from now with their brand. And of course, things are going to come up, things are going to change, but at least we took that time to set out a strategy that we think is going to work.
Yeah. And I'll add just one layer to that, because I just had a conversation last night as you were talking about what does success look like in PR. I was talking about this with sales, and it was like, okay, sure, we talk about revenue all the time, but what are like the key metrics that if you land these things, everything else will fall into place? So I think I'll just toss that out for listeners. Like, as you think about what success looks like in PR, I would also ask the question, what does success look like? What are the main KPIs you need to hit as a business? Like, is it revenue? Is it followers? Is it like discovery calls or whatever it is? But it should be like 3 main numbers, and then everything else falls into place. So yeah. Because I think it can get overwhelming.
Well, and I'll add a layer to that and just say, what we're offering our clients is really a business plan, as if we're the vice president or chief communications of your business. Yeah. Just like sales has its own sort of chart. Now, a small business isn't going to go hire a C-suite of professionals. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a small business. So you can at least spend time and find smart people to help at least guide you or have conversations. There's plenty of great resources online, but going back to at least one of my core beliefs is like, it really starts with you, and no one's going to do it the way you're going to do it. So ask yourself, what am I, from a sales perspective, from a process perspective, but for us, where we participate mostly is from a comms and PR perspective. Yeah,
for sure. Okay. So I have a question I'm excited to ask you, because I asked this one other time and like the answer was magical. What is one thing people probably don't know about you that is essential to who you are?
Oh, I like this. I have been told that I make people very comfortable, and in the professional setting, and then personal too. Personal, okay, accepting, loving, giving. I care so much about my community and my friends, but professionally, PR is actually very vulnerable. You are raising your profile. You are taking a picture of you or of your company or of your team or something you've created, and putting it out there for other people to consume, learn about, read about, maybe judge too. And people feel very judged in that process, whether they say that out loud or not. So it's a very vulnerable state. Another thing we do, is going back to that gamification, is we really prepare our clients for raising their profile, I always say, in a way that makes sense for their business goals. And that might be camera work or media training and getting really clear. And me, I'm a consultant, not a coach. So I'm going to push you and I'm going to hold space for you. And so I think I think that's the thing is it's not like I set out like, I'm going to make KILEY feel comfortable today. And that's my job. I think that's inherent because I've been in very fast-paced environments. I don't have time to judge. I'm here to get the work done and try to, learn about you and make sure you feel comfortable. But I also want to deliver you something that you're really going to love and that's going to make a difference. So how do those two things play together? And I think that's just an interpersonal thing. And I think I got it from my mom mostly, but
from your mom.
Totally. My mom makes you feel good. She's like a
she's a hippie, you said?
Totally. She's totally a hippie.
I love it.
Let me just put it this way. She was blowing up a beach ball at the Def Leppard concert when it was getting dark because she forgot it was in her bag, but it did make its way to the stage and we were in the nosebleeds in Milwaukee. So my mom was just like, she's just down to have a good time.
Oh, you were up here for that show. I know a bunch of people that were at that show. Yes. Okay. All right. So approachability, absolutely. But is there like a, almost like a secret, people wouldn't know that I only wear like fuzzy socks on Saturday nights or something like that? Anything fun like that?
Okay. The sauna is my favorite place to be. And I mantra, like, I'm Tamara Edwards bitch when I'm there. Yes. It's the one place that nobody can bother me and not bother, but I'm off my phone.
Can't get you. Yeah.
Just me and the earth. And it's just me and it's such a raw place. And it's my favorite place to be. I was there this morning. I go there to meditate. I go there if I'm stressed out. I'm like, get to the sauna.
I love it.
I recenter there.
I love it. And you know what's funny is mine is the steam room. I like right next to the sauna. Like the sauna is like too hot for me, but water's my happy place. And I find the steam room and I'm like, oh my God, my brilliance is
you
happening
become you.
here. Yeah. I'm like sweating and like my hair is dripping and like the water that's dripping from the ceiling. And I'm like, oh my God, the brilliance ideas that I've been working on. Like, boop.
Yeah. I kind of think it's like something about simulation where, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, like I'm creating services and products and I want to have a venture fund one day. And so there's so much stimulation in my day, and my husband, we are going to be married for our anniversary is coming up, and we're very happy, we're in a very happy stage. Family's okay. So it's like, there's so many great things happening and of course challenges, but it's like, there's so much stimulation in the physical environment, especially this room, that you're like, I can't even think. I'm just me right now.
Yes.
I'm just a being.
Yes. I love it. I love it. All right. So you're the sauna. I'm the steam room. We'll come out and high five and like go on and continue being badass bitches. Okay. Awesome. Tamara, what is the legacy you want to leave or the impact you want to make?
Yeah. Legacy is interesting. It's not for sale. I see people selling legacy and I'm like, okay, that's an interesting take. The thing that I want people to know is not just me, but business. Like I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be running, we're going to hit 7 figures, right? That is crazy to think about. I remember my first check from a client was like $1,000. And I was like, oh my goodness, someone is going to pay me to do something more than my rent. This is insanity, right? So it is really just about life, entrepreneurship, just working hard. There's sacrifice, there's good days, there's bad days, but it's just about choosing you. I'm in 2 wonderful coaching programs. One is Anna Kusala. One is Neha O'Rourke of Somewhere in Between Coaching. I'm mentored by great people, but I'm heavily coached. And because I chose me and I've invested in myself, and these 2 women are just so powerful, but coaching aside is I just choose me. And it really comes back to me. And, I want to have a good day. I want to move with ease. I want happy clients. I want a successful business, and I'll do anything it takes to get there. Right. Within reason, with grace, and keeping healthy relationships. And my values, they're unwavering. Right. But I choose me first, and everything else really comes into place. And that's coming from a person who just a few short years ago was a congressional staffer. Yes, who, worked for a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, worked for a lieutenant colonel in the Army, later, right? Yes, sir, no, sir, mission critical. We all do this teamwork, but you can still set time aside for yourself and get clear on what you want. And you don't have to burn bridges or just quit your job, whatever it is. But I've chosen myself. Tamara Edwards is on my business card because that's who I am. No one's going to determine my income or my future or the direction of my business. And I've hired the wrong people and I've made a lot of mistakes. And I think what RAYNE is doing and what Welcome to ELOMA doing, which is why I was so excited to work with you, is you're creating environments where people can have those conversations, because business is very difficult. So the more that we teach each other and share information, and just tell the truth of what's really going on here, I think that's what I want to participate in. And so it's not just my legacy, so to speak. It's really a need and a requirement, because this has been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I want more people to experience it. And I will say later this year, I'll actually be releasing a documentary that it's archiving and chronicling me freaking out, dropping my magazine with no makeup on, so nervous about hitting send, and just showing what really goes into it. Because we all, in the Instagram era, we can all tell a really great story online. But I think too, as a publicist, it's also what's happening behind the scenes, and there's some education of what your experience is, which is important to share that, and important to tell, and important to be mindful of that. So you can share the good news, share the news that having your books in order is the best thing for me that's ever happened to my business. I have an amazing CFO, Pablo is his name. And oh my God, what a difference it makes when your books are in order.
Yeah.
Who knew? Nobody told me that. Maybe they did, but we just have to keep saying it to each other, because you never know when they're going to be able to receive the information, how they're going to be able to receive it. And things will fall into place if you just keep at it. So that's what I want people to do and think about, because I have a drive in me, and I think we all do here. And it's easy to start a business in 2022, and it's easy to sell things online and get clear about who you are, but you have to choose you first.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, my last question for you, which might be the same answer or not, we'll see. But what is your greatest insight or discovery about life and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that my greatest insight is that I really view my time here, my soul's existence, and what my friend and I call our meat suits, my physical body. Now that you heard it, you're not going to be able to unhear it.
I'm done. I can't
pop out. Yeah.
I'm writing this down.
Pop out at some point.
Meat suits. Oh my gosh. I'm writing this down.
A friend of mine said it to me, and I just thought it was like, now I see it. And so, but it's my objective is to do as much as I possibly can and just explore and push myself and see what can happen and see what I can create. And entrepreneurship has given me that tool. Now, corporate jobs, don't quit your job. You can invest in yourself in many ways, but entrepreneurship particularly has given me the ability to not only envision, but create and bring to life and get better. Right. And my business, I feel very much that we're on the ground floor, even though we're 5 years in, and we have, I think, a very good brand. We've got great media. We've got amazing clients, but we're on the ground floor. It's always, it's a long game. So yeah, those are the main two things.
Okay.
It's a long game.
It's a long game. I love it. All right, lady, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. For everybody listening who is now obsessed with you in the same way I am and wants to reach out, what's the best way to contact you?
Sure. My email, very accessible. I love having conversations. I always say I'm not a salesperson. I just want to add value. So my email is Tamara at tamaraedwards.co. That's TAMARA EDWARDS. Email me. I'd love to have a conversation around what your goals are for PR, communications, personal branding. And then my website is tamaraedwards.co.
Awesome. All right. We'll make sure that that's in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for everybody listening. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, please go ahead and leave a review. Tamara, you're the best. Thank you so much.
You're the best. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for Welcome to ELOMA and RAYNE 9. I cannot wait for everyone to read and see and consume what you're building is truly incredible. And I was nervous coming onto this show because I know that you have great guests, great listeners, and you yourself are just, you're amazing. So thank you. You said, thank me. Thank you. Let's just,
oh my gosh,
really what you're doing is incredible.
You're too sweet. Okay. Well, we'll gush offline. All right. You're the best. Thank you.
Okay. You are. Bye. Okay, no, you.
To continue learning how to better build your business and make your vision a reality, subscribe to the Welcome to ELOMA email list at welcometoeloma.com.